This is your quadratic functions assignment, Belinda. I'm just going to go up to the very first page and see how we did. The very first question, you did something good. You pulled out the 2 from the x squared and the x term. When you did that, everything here is good. Now when you complete the square, this last term is always going to be positive. Because what it is x minus 4 times x minus 4. So the minus 4 times the minus 4 will give us a positive 16. So this will always be positive. And because of the 2 in front, by adding 16 you've really added 32, which means you have to subtract 32. And that means, of course, this one would be a minus 21. So that one little mistake was made there. Your y-intercept by making x equal to 0 is 11, and that's perfect. Same thing with something similar happens in your b, and that is you pull out a negative from, or you should pull out a negative right here. And when you do that, this becomes a positive 4 because you're pulling out the negative from both the x squared and the negative 4x. So once that negative gets pulled out, the x squared becomes positive, the negative 4x becomes positive. This right here will be a plus 2, always half of what this one is, and then plus 2 squared is going to give us 4. And of course this one's always going to be positive. Now we have minus negative 4. We have a plus 4, which means we really subtracted 4, so we have to add 4 here, which is right. So the 14 is right. The only thing that's wrong here is this should be a negative 2. And again, your y-intercept is correct. Question number 2, something you have problems with, as you say, and a lot of students do as well, is your word problem. This is perfect. You use the formulas in the textbook, and quite often I don't use that. I would have just pulled out the 2 and did it just like we did the ones up above here and found out what my vertex was that way, because to me this formula doesn't mean anything. It's just another formula to memorize. But either way I would have got the same thing as my answer, which is what you did. So great job. Let's look at question number 3. In question number 3, you knew that your vertex was 2, negative 3, which is right here. Perfect. And you found out what your x-intercepts were. You made one little mistake, and that is when you took the square root of 3, you didn't take the square root of 3, you actually divided by 2, and you got 1.5 here. So you had 3.5 and 0.5. But the square root of 3 is actually 1.73 something something. So 1.7 is correct, because that's what the square root of 3 is. Then you'd have plus 2 to give us 3.7. And 2 subtract 1.7 would give us 0.3. So these would be our 2 points. One at 0.3 and one at 3.7. And it would look pretty much the same. I just wanted to point that out. Sometimes the easier point to find is our y-intercept. Make x equal to 0, find out what our y equals. So in this case I make x equal to 0, I get y equals 1, and that would be my point. The other one would be over here because of symmetry, and I could graph it that way as well. And the last question, let me just take it up one step. It's all set up for us the way we want it, and because this is a plus 1, means our vertex is a minus 1, at an x value of minus 1, positive 4. Now again, the y-intercept, if I would have made x equal to 0, I would have minus 2 times 0 plus 1 squared plus 4. 0 plus 1 is 1, square that, I get 1, times negative 2 is negative 2 plus 4, and that gives me a 2 here. So that gives me the point 0, 2, which is right here. And by symmetry I get another point